Good morning, everybody, and afternoon for some of the people around the globe in the Southern Hemisphere. It is a privilege to welcome you guys to this webinar this morning, where we have Hein that can present to us the efficacy of Crop for Life promoting color, size, and bricks on citrus. So, Hein, good afternoon to you in South Africa. You're doing well today?
Yes, I am. Thanks. And yourself?
Doing great. So, Hein Gerber, can you please introduce yourself to the team this morning? And then I will let you go ahead and present to us this presentation to the citrus growers and distributors of our product here in the US.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dirk, for the opportunity. Okay, so I'm a director at BioRevolution, who is the distributor of Crop for Life, and yeah, mainly involved with supporting growth and innovation. And then I'm also involved with a distributor in South Africa. That's more on the pre-harvest side. So I do a lot of work, a lot of pre-harvest consulting, technical type of work, and also a bit of private consulting work. So a lot of my skill set is actually on pre-harvest production practices, and then the use of biostimulants, the effective placement within a program, within a Foliar Spray program, to improve yield, to improve quality, and yeah, for like the topic that we have today on the table, which is rind color improvement, also how to apply the product to that end.
Thank you, Hein, for that introduction. Hein, can you maybe tell us a little bit about the development of Crop for Life in terms of how many years are we now busy with this technology and how did it evolve to where we are today?
Yeah, sure, Dirk. So it's been over 20 years of testing. So the product has been in the field for quite some time. It has been tested on more than 48 crops. I think we're standing probably at 50 now. And I think what differentiates this product from many other biostimulant products that's available in the market is the vast amount of research data that we have. We have university studies, doctoral studies, master studies that are both past and in the present being undertaken at the moment. So we've always been very interested in what we see in the field. We see the results, but then also in knowing what is the physiological basis for these results, even taking it back to the genetic level to see what's happening on a genetic level. Why are we seeing the results that we are seeing? And then we're really committed to ongoing research and development. We do new trials every year. So especially here in South Africa, we've got a very large uptake of the product. The product is doing very well. It's very well established. It is endorsed by advisors. And apart from the academic backing that we've been enjoying, even the citrus research body in South Africa, the grower body, has now included the product in a 3-year heat stress trial to see what the negation effect on heat stress might be. So yeah, it's not it's not your typical biostimulant. It is a biostimulant, I would say, that always gives a return on investment. It has quite a broad response, but we often focus it on one specific outcome or parameter that we'd like to improve, but then there's also other secondary effects that we almost without exception notice.
Thank you, Hein. I think with any other further ado, I want you to go ahead and let's do the presentation. And I just, for everybody's reference on the call, this is recorded and you would be able to access this recording after the presentation. You would have it you will have able to access this via this link after the presentation.
Okay, Dirk, let me see if I can share that presentation.
So everybody, just for reference, so I'm the VP for operations here, marketing and new business development in the United States for Omnia. And then we are the preferred distributor for the Crop for Life technology here in the United States. So Hein, thank you for that. And then Hein already just introduced himself to the panel here. Right after this, he's going to go in and just show you guys a short video clip about the technology, and then we will commence with the presentation after that.
So yeah, we can go right into the video.
Perfect. Thank you.
Crop for Life, advanced biostimulant for plant resilience and growth. Crop for Life is a cutting-edge biostimulant designed to unlock a plant's full genetic potential, improving growth, resilience, and quality under various environmental conditions. How Crop for Life works. Optimized formulation, a unique blend of flavonoids, plant extracts, including citrus aurantium, and organic acids in a foliar-applied suspension concentrate. Proven compatibility, successfully integrated into tank mixes without adverse effects. Backed by science, 2 decades of research across 48 crops ensure consistent results. Scientific validation, gene expression impact. A PhD study at Stellenbosch University showed that Crop for Life alters over 2,500 genes, enhancing key plant functions. Boost photosynthesis, upregulates genes linked to chlorophyll synthesis, improving light absorption and energy production. Stress resilience, helps plants withstand salt stress and other environmental challenges by maintaining chlorophyll levels and upregulating stress-related genes. Key benefits: increases energy production, driving growth and metabolism, enhances plant signaling and hormone activity, improving adaptation and nutrient uptake. Strengthens cell walls, leading to firmer fruit, better structure, and longer shelf life. Boosts beneficial soil microbes, enhancing root exudates and microbial relationships. Prepares plants for stress, improving tolerance to pests, pathogens, and harsh conditions. With Crop for Life, plants grow stronger, healthier, and more productive, thriving in any environment. Omnia, innovating to enhance life, together creating a greener future.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you, Hein.
Dirk, did you want to say anything there, or can I go ahead?
No, you can go ahead. Thank you, Hein.
Oh, that's a really nice video. Thanks, Dirk. So obviously, like it was highlighted in the video, there can be quite a few outcomes with the use of the product. But what we are going to focus on today is mainly on rind color development of citrus. And also I'm going to try and explain a bit what the potential mechanism for that might be so that it makes sense. Yeah, any questions at any stage, you're welcome. So just to highlight some key points from that presentation, from that video clip, is Crop for Life is a biostimulant, but it is not a typical kelp biostimulant as the ones that are probably the most well known. I must say the category of biostimulants have been expanded quite a bit after the last few years. And yeah, Crop for Life is primarily a bioflavonoid-based biostimulant, if you had to describe it in any way. And a large proportion of that bioflavonoid comes from Citrus aurantium or Bittercivil, and it comes from the small fruit. And the reason for that is just that the concentration of that is very high. Okay, then it also includes 5 organic acids. These organic acids play a role in formulation, but it also has a direct impact on efficacy of the product, sometimes a direct impact on the tree even. And then it also contains some saponin in the form of yucca, which also has mild antimicrobial and soapy sort of benefits. The product is organic, and like we said, it's been tested extensively. Yeah, we've got a vast bank of data, statistical data, as well as commercial and semi-commercial data. So if anyone has any would like to see any further data of the this presentation, you can feel free to make contact with Dirk on different crops, even if it's not citrus. We do have data for most crops, especially the fruit crops. Okay, so the idea with rind color enhancement, this wasn't initially something that we went out to test or that we aimed for. So this product was initially mostly tested for stress priming, in other words, to enhance crop set, fruiting, reproductive growth, and then the quality of that. But when we do testing, we also always checking for other positive spin-offs, so secondary effects that might be there. So we will be looking at a number of parameters while we're testing one specific component, and this was also the case. So I just want to give you a bit of a short 3-point historical. How did we come across this color enhancing effect with the product? So in our historical trials, and these were mostly based on 3 set sprays, and the sprays are normally just before bud swell, then again at full bloom, and then again 2 weeks prior to physiological fruit drop. So that was a standard program, and there we often saw at least a 5 to 6% improvement in rind color, just as a secondary effect, a positive spin-off. Often it was more. I will show you some of that data where it was significantly more. So we noticed it as something that's happening. And then, so in brackets here, the month of May would be when we did this trial work in the Southern Hemisphere, but I've included everywhere in brackets what the date would be to correspond to Northern Hemisphere. So as a November application, this we tested, we were aiming it specifically at flower initiation. So we were trying to see after a heavy on year, can we improve flowering, which we did. We improved flowering by about 30% in the next season, but then we saw as a secondary effect an improvement in color of up to 8%, which was also a positive indication, especially at that late timing, about 6 weeks before harvest. Okay, and then as a third one, and more recently, when we really started to sort of focus on this color effect, when we saw color changes that were more dramatic and changes actually in maturity of the fruit, we were applying the product July, August, so sort of late summer. And what we were trying to do is during an on year, we were trying to initiate some extra growth, some extra flush, because often during the on years, we're not seeing enough flush. And if we don't have enough flush, then the next season we don't have bearing wood, and then we've got an off-year crop, which is undesirable. So we managed to produce more flush. We actually did a split application, half a dose July, half a dose August, got a nice flush, but then very noticeable when it was time to, when color break started, we noticed that it was about 3 weeks early for this variety. It's a Murcott type. It's the Royal Honey Murcott, which is from Australia. And so we noticed that the fruit is visibly, noticeably coloring up much earlier, and it also corresponded with the internal quality, higher bricks, lower acid. So overall, it was harvested about 3 weeks early, which actually caused it to be harvested before the variety that's normally harvested just ahead of it. So this was very significant to us, and we sort of started thinking, okay, that's interesting because this timing is very early, and we wouldn't have necessarily thought this timing is going to influence coloring to that extent. So we started doing a bit of trial work on that, which we will have a look at shortly. Okay, but best results we were basically seeing in the July to October window with application, color improvement, as well as the internal quality improvement. Okay, so then just to try and explain some of this, and I mean, this is a secondary positive effect that we're seeing. We're also trying to make sense of it. What could be the mechanism? How can it work? How does it work? And I'm going to highlight just a couple of points where potentially on the genetic level from work that has been done. It may have its origin. So this work was done as a university study. It was a doctoral study that was focused completely around this product to try and figure out what we're seeing in the field, how can it be related to gene expression. So that is what was tested. And basically what you're seeing here is the gene expression map. And in simple terms, the light green and darker green means upregulation, while the pink and sort of maroon color means downregulation. And I just want to point out two things here. So the one is that area that's now circled in yellow, and that is basically our light reactions. So everything to do with photosynthesis. That tetraperol at the bottom there, just above the yellow line, is a precursor to chlorophyll. So basically what we're seeing elevated concentrations of chlorophyll, and we're seeing elevated photosynthesis. So thereby we have more photosynthesis, but the relevance of the higher chlorophyll level is that higher fruit chlorophyll level ends up giving us darker orange citrus fruit at harvest. So this is a potential point. I'll come back to it a little bit. And then also I want to point out the purple block, which is secondary metabolism. And secondary metabolism has a lot to do with making the tree or the plant more competitive in its environment. It's got to do with protection against abiotic stress, so stress like heat stress or wind stress or drought stress or salinity stress, but then also biotic stresses, so pest and disease type of stress. But part of that, what we've noticed and often noticed, is an improvement in color. And many of the color pigments have got a protective property, maybe sun protection, but it can also have a property of attracting pollinators, for instance. So it has to do with competitiveness and survival. And we've, for instance, seen with anthocyanin in blueberries and grapes, we get an increase in that. We get better color with those crops when we apply the product. But then also your terpenes, which also includes carotenoids, and carotenoids are our predominant orange color pigment for citrus. So that is also upregulated as part of this secondary metabolism. So two potential modes of action here for giving us better rind color could be the increase in chlorophyll, and then also the increase in secondary metabolites, including our orange pigment. Okay. This is further work. I'm just going to see if I can get a pointer going. Okay, so this is further work that was done as part of the university study. And mostly what I want to show you here is this is chlorophyll content in the leaf, in the indicator plant that was used for the study. So an application of Crop for Life compared to the control greatly increases chlorophyll level. This part on this side speaks more to, which is not our topic today, but stress alleviation and fruit retention, actually, and the functioning of the plant. So just in short, to say something about this is that when salt is applied, you can see how the chlorophyll level drops. But when salt is applied as well as Crop for Life, it actually brings that level of chlorophyll back to the same level as the control. So actually the plant is a lot more functional. And then maybe just to say something about this chlorophyll. So previous research work on citrus has shown that during the month of November, Southern Hemisphere, so that would be May for Northern Hemisphere, the darker color, the darkest color fruit has got the most vibrant orange color at maturity, at harvest. And the reason for that is the chlorophyll concentration. So this can be achieved with pruning, because chlorophyll is also a sun protective molecule. So if the trees are pruned open and the young fruitlets receive a lot of sun, you will have a higher chlorophyll concentration on that fruit, potentially giving you brighter orange fruit at harvest. But then also it can be done with a spray like this that improves the chlorophyll content or the concentration of chlorophyll, which will then also lead to darker color fruit. The reason for that is, on the one hand, if fruits start to color or we have color break, chlorophyll causes masking of the orange color, so it starts getting broken down to unmask the color. But then at the same time, the constituents that the chlorophyll is made of are also used then for the synthesis of carotenoids. So we have this breakdown of chlorophyll, synthesis of carotenoids, so it makes sense that the more chlorophyll we have, the more carotenoid orange pigment color molecules we could end up with. Okay, this is also just for interest's sake. It was done on tomato, and it is the sepals of the flowers, so the green part. And the images you see here were taken through a confocal microscope. We've got the control, and then this was a root drench of the seedlings and the spray as well. So you can see both treatments. We've got this much darker red color, and the darker red color that you're seeing indicates higher chlorophyll content. So just a nice visual for that point as well. Okay, so this is us getting to a bit of the data, and this data is quite old that I'm showing you now. I'm also going to show you the more much more recent data and work that's not even been completed yet. So this is some of the early work, and as a percentage of 100, you can see here in the untreated, basically 2% of the more orange colored fruit, and then where it's been treated with a standard program of Crop for Life, that's gone up to 16, and where we had about 73% green fruit, that was reduced to 31%. Okay, so that would be an effect of more than 10%. That would actually be noticeable in the orchard. And then just included here for interest's sake is a gibberellic acid application that was done in Southern Hemisphere around December, January. So that would be June, July for Northern Hemisphere. And here in South Africa, it's quite a standard practice. It's used to reduce the incidence of creasing, especially in navels. I think you might call it cracking, but it's basically the breakdown of the albedo that causes those lines on the fruit and makes them unmarketable or less marketable. So that gibberellic acid spray has the effect of retarding rind color development. So next slide, that's the same data I just showed you on the previous slide, just for comparison, and then additional work here that was done on Palmer navel. So seeing pretty much the same effect, less green, more orange, but then interestingly also, if we apply both the gibberellic acid, which retards the color, but we're also applying Crop for Life, then it is fairly similar to the control. There's actually a bit more of the middle category fruit, so this fruit would also be able to be degreened more easily. So if it is a standard practice or a practice that you are using to apply gibberellic acid and you have concerns about retarding color, then this is also an option for you to negate that negative effect. Okay, so this work, I have referred to it. It was done on Tango, and Tango is quite responsive to this product. Also Clementine types, quite responsive, navels, Valencias, very responsive. So the aim of this research was to get more flowering. It was done on your side November, and the aim was just to reduce the impact of alternate bearing, which worked. But then we also looked at internal quality, and we also looked at color, and we saw this increase in the darker orange fruit of about 8%. Okay, so the work that I'm showing you now is much more recent. It was from the 2025 harvest, and I hope it's relevant. It's on Star Ruby grapefruit. So Star Ruby develops a lycopene sort of pinkish blush, and it's also an orange colored fruit when it is well colored. So just to point out here, it's the untreated control plus then 3 different treatments. And for reference, you can have a look here on the right-hand side. Our December is your June, January, July, February is August. So we can refer to it in that way. So what we're seeing here is we've got the greener categories on this side and the well-colored categories here. And this is our control. So then our mid-December application dropped the category 2 and had more of the better colored fruit. And then our, okay, so that's the June one. Then our July application, it had even less of the category 3 and more of the better color. And then basically our August application dropped the category 3 completely and had much more fruit in the well-colored category. So this was quite interesting to me. My expectation was, just to point out, after this evaluation, 3 weeks later, the fruit was harvested. So initially we thought we were going to have to time the spray, and we did test a number of different timings for a few cultivars. But our idea was that, okay, if it's an early variety, we will need to spray early. And that's why I included this June application. And if it's a later variety, we're going to have to spray later. But we're seeing now that it sort of seems to be, whether it's an early or a late cultivar, it seems like we're getting best results around mid-August up till October. In our commercial work, we saw quite good results in October, and I also showed you that result for November of the 8% increase. But it seems to me like February is the real sweet spot so far. Obviously, we're going to keep on testing and refining to find what's really perfect per variety, but so far this is a good indication. Okay. Then this work is also from the season. This is on Tango. The report has not been completed. The data has not been analyzed. I just wanted to show you some of the photos because they also create quite a nice visual impression. So this is our control, and then there were 4 treatments as well, and evaluation took place, which would in June, which would have translated to December for Northern Hemisphere. So have a look at it. I can also come back to this one. I'm going to show you the other 4 treatments just visually, and I'll tell you what each treatment consisted of. So this was our first treatment, and it consisted of 2 half-dose sprays, August and September. And you can already see the difference in masking. There's a lot of the chlorophyll that's less present now. Okay, then the next one was our second application. It was a full dose of it, so 7 fluid ounces per acre, and it was applied in August. You can also see that the color is better relative to the control. And then we tried 2 full dose sprays, one in August, one in September, and you can also see the color is much more vibrant. And then we tried 1 spray in September, so also slightly later and also good color. So at this stage, difficult to say which one actually worked the best. But once again, there's control. And then we've got our 4 treatment sprays, which visually easy to see in the orchard. The color was better. So normally if we can see it easily this visually, we say the effect is at least more than 10%. Normally if it's below 10%, you're going to have to evaluate first or put it over a pack line to see how much difference you had. Okay, then I just wanted to include this as well for interest sake. So this is work that was done in the USA on Satsuma, and it was work that was outsourced by Omnia, so it was done independently. It is statistical trials. You can look at the confidence level here in the corner for these trials. And basically there was a 10% increase in fruit retention with the program that was followed. And even though there was a 10% increase in fruit retention and fruit numbers, at the same time, there was an increase of about 20% in fruit size. So this is an effect that we've seen quite a few times with the product, that we get this fruit size enhancing effect, but it does come to a certain point, because this was about 10% increase in fruit size, but we have had up to 56% increase increase in fruit set, but we have had cases where we get up to 56% increase in fruit set, and at that level, you're definitely going to have to adjust your fertilizer program, the amount of potassium that you're applying, as well as your irrigation to size those fruit up properly. Okay, so part of this presentation did note that we're going to talk about internal quality as well. And we see this internal quality effect. It's not always totally consistent, but I would say in at least 60% of cases we see it. And once again, this was a secondary effect. It was on Tango. It was an application in November for Northern Hemisphere. And we had quite a significant increase in bricks from 11.5 to 13.4, a slight decrease in acid, and you can see how the ratio improved from 11.17 to 14.89, really making this prime fruit. So this was just a positive spin-off from that, and we have now also seen it in other orchards where we've done semi-commercial work. For instance, in a Tango orchard where we applied the product to only 8 lines, and those 8 lines, the color was earlier, the internal quality was earlier, and even ended up having a fruit fly problem there because the fruit fly control wasn't in check as it should have been, and those 8 rows of fruit was obviously more attractive to the fruit fly because they were actually harvested a little bit late and became post-mature. So it's something very positive for us, especially for our northern regions where we often struggle with color. And something that I want to point out is, and that's the case with biostimulants, they really come into their own and give the biggest return on investment when there is an actual stress or an actual need for them to do something. So last season, we had a poor color year in the North and in the Western Cape. We were struggling with color, and we had very good results, significant results, visual results. This year, we had an exceptional good color year. Our fruit color was natural coloring took place in the orchards exceptionally well, and then we see less of this coloring effect. So that is something to note about biostimulants and how they work. They really give the biggest results when there is some sort of a stressor or some sort of a negative impact from climate or biotic, but we're not always able to determine or to know ahead of time when that's going to take place, and that's why we spray a program. That consistency in spraying the program also has a cumulative effect, and it sort of safeguards us against adverse conditions that might occur. Okay, here's another one. It's also from that Satsuma work. Less effect. You can see from 12 to 12.77 to 13.03. So not such a big effect, but also still seeing that effect on bricks. Okay, this is my last slide, and then we can take some questions or comments. Feel free to ask also about other impacts that the product might have. And I'm just going to go through all 6 options. Normally, the full program does not involve 6 options. Some producers do spray the 6 options on the high value stuff, but it's not always the case. And I'm just going to note the Northern Hemisphere dates. So this spray is prior to bud swell. In my opinion, in my experience, this is the spray with which you get the biggest return on investment, because it stimulates a lot of flower and it enhances fruit set. So in one of our Tango trials, we got up to 56% more fruit set after we had 135% more flowering with the product after an on year. So where the control trees had a lot of new flush without flower, our treated trees had a lot more new flush, spring flush with flower included. So for me, I always see the biggest effect with this. But for instance, if you want to play around with your program and structure it a bit differently, if you are coming from an off year and you know that you are going into an on year now, you might want to skip this one and go for one of the other options. Okay, then this one is more or less on full bloom. Full bloom is when cell division kicks off in citrus. So it's a good timing because the product also has the effect of enhancing calcium uptake. So the product contains no calcium, but it stimulates calcium uptake from the soil. And what we basically find in our trial work over various citrus varieties is that we get up to 25% more calcium in the fruit when we're spraying a program with the product. So it's going to boost cell division, but it's also going to enhance calcium uptake. So for us, in certain parts of South Africa also, we have over cloudy days like we have now in the Western Cape, and then we've got poor transpiration, less calcium uptake, and then we spray more of this. Sometimes we do this March one, but then also an April one if we have those conditions. Also helps with fruit retention and fruit set, the spray. Okay, then this one, which is May. So we try and position this spray about 10 to 14 days before physiological fruit drop. Derek and his team also had the work done on Satsuma, where it also showed that your June drop is reduced when the product is sprayed at this timing. We've also had really good results in South Africa, even with a single spray of this on Nulis Clementine to see fruit retention. Okay, so this one, I've already discussed it, but if you are coming from a heavy or you are inside a heavy crop year, often we don't get enough shoot flush. We also do not get enough root flush. So then we apply the spray sort to try and get more flush. So this is our late summer, and we do get flush, and this is actually the spray that got us onto this testing the different timing now for color. Okay, this one is the one that's significant to our topic today. So basically spraying from August to October, this is where we're seeing the best results on rind color development, internal quality, and then also the maturity effect. So this effect on rind color, quite consistent. The internal quality and maturity, a little bit less consistent. Doesn't always bring the picking window forward, but in most cases, you're going to get this rind color improvement. I see also there's differences between our different growing. We've got quite a few different climatic, microclimatic differences in South Africa, summer rainfall, winter rainfall. So I also see that maturity effect happening more in our summer rainfall region as compared to our winter rainfall region. Okay, and then lastly, this potential application for November. What we saw with that is still that improvement in rind color, improvement in the internal quality. The Tango work that I showed you, where that big difference in caused that big difference in internal ratio, bricks and acid ratio. This was this timing. So it gives more flowering, gives better rind color and internal quality. So what you can see is if you combine these two, you can get a color effect up to spraying into November. But if you really have an issue, I would say start even earlier, start in February. Yeah, you've got the option of 2 split doses or a full dose or 2 full doses to try and figure out what works best on your specific farm. Yeah, thank you. That's all of the content I wanted to share. Dirk, you can maybe take over and facilitate some questions for us.
Thank you, Hein, for a very insightful presentation and to the point. I really appreciate it. You guys have access through the chat to ask questions. I've just posted it there for you, for all the audience, and I haven't had any questions on this presentation as yet. So we'll give it a minute or two for people who want to ask a question in the chat.
Yeah, also if you want us to go back to any of the slides that we've gone through, you can also just mention where we need to go back to.
Exactly. And then also just for everybody's reference, this meeting, this webinar has been recorded and you will have access to it afterwards, but you're also very welcome to reach out to me or any of my team members, Dr. Rita Abiganem, that's also on the call, and Robert Faye, my Western Regional Sales Manager for California. He's also on the call. You guys are more than welcome to reach out to us. So Robert is asking, can you use Crop for Life with 2,4-D sprays?
Yes, Robert, no problem. We have not had any compatibility issues with Crop for Life, and it is actually quite often sprayed with 2,4-D, with gibberellic acid, with other plant growth regulators.
So you mentioning the November timing. So we're going to try and push the Crop for Life positioning now for October to enhance color, fruit, and bricks. What is your opinion if we would apply the 2,4-D and Crop for Life with 2,4-D in a November time frame?
Okay, so your 2,4-D spray for November, is that for fruit retention, Dirk?
I guess, yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's an interesting question, Dirk, because Crop for Life does enhance maturity. So in an instance where you're spraying 2,4-D to hang the crop later, you're going to have to see how that works out, because if you want to hang quite late, you might want to delay color break, and you might want to delay maturity slightly. So it might be contrary to what you are trying to achieve. I think with the Crop for Life spray at that timing, it's quite possible it's going to bring your crop forward. So you might use it as a scheduling tool on your farm for certain blocks to harvest slightly earlier, and maybe skip certain blocks where you don't want the crop to be earlier. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you for that, Hein. Jason from Family Tree Farms, thank you for your question. You ask about, do we have tests done on stone fruit and blueberries? The answer is yes, Jason, but maybe you want to just elaborate a bit more on the work that we have done there, Hein, especially on fruit quality, size, weight, and all of that. I know it's outside of the citrus, but if you can just maybe comment on that.
I'll try, Dirk. It might be that you have more knowledge on that. That falls under my colleague's side. But Jason, actually, the product is being trialed this year at Family Tree Farms in South Africa, actually in the town where I am at the moment. They're testing it on kiwi. But yes, in terms of stone fruit, pome fruit, we have noticed also the calcium increase. We get higher yield. We get better fruit finish, so less blemishes. We also notice that effect on table grape, less blemish. So firmness is always something that comes in. We notice that consistently in trial work. And then shelf life. Always notice extended shelf life. If it's a type of fruit that has a color pigment like anthocyanin or carotenoid, we always see enhanced color. And then often the fruit size effect as well. So that's mostly what most producers will aim for, is higher yield, better quality. But we also see an effect because of the upregulation of photosynthesis. There's more root exudates taking place. So we also see a shift in the soil microbial environment from more parasitic role players to more beneficial role players, because the plant actually has the ability to use those root exudates to select for microbes that's going to assist it in its purpose.
Thank you, Hein. And if I can just elaborate a little bit more, we have done a very good study with Dr. Vishal Sinde last year on blueberries in the Visalia area. I will share that with you guys as well. That research data report is available. And then over the years in South Africa on blueberries, you guys have done extensive work on fruit retention, berry size, and color as well. So it's all out there.
And firmness, Dirk, as well, also improves firmness. Yeah.
Yes. And then I can just mention at Fresno State University, we have done more than 5 years of cumulative work on various grape varieties. The first week we've done was in 2016 already, where we used Crop for Life on table grapes to improve the uniform coloring of a variety like Crimson Globe, for example. And we have done very good research there. It was well documented, and it's also been published by a student that we sponsored at the time. And then also this last 3 years, we've done work on wine grapes, and Gallo is actually evaluating the product on their red varieties as well to improve the color of those berries on red wine grapes. So we have a lot of work being done also here in the US on those fruit crops. All right. I don't see any other questions at this stage. If anybody of you have any more questions, I want to encourage you guys, as I said earlier, to reach out to me or to Robert or Dr. Rita Abiganim. And I want to take the time to thank you, Hein, for a very well presented and to the point presentation this morning. It's much appreciated, and your knowledge will be beneficial to our growers here in the Valley.
No, you're very welcome, Derek. It was my privilege. I thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Well, with that said, thank you, people. Go out there and enjoy a great rest of your week. And we're looking forward to engage with you guys soon. Thank you so much.